Hello, I'm Joy Burns-Roger, and this is your Government in Action. Thank you for joining us. Upon his return from the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, CHOGM, in Rwanda, Prime Minister the Honorable Philip Davis held a press conference in the VIP lounge of the Lynden Pinding International Airport on Monday, June 27, 2022. He engaged with the local media on a number of issues of national import, beginning with a review of the national agenda furthered at CHOGM, as well as a number of other issues and matters of national concern closer to home. Todd Isaacs has this story.
During the press briefing, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, the Honorable Philip Davis, noted that as he closely followed the news from the Bahamas the week prior, he was able to candidly exchange views with other leaders of CHOGM about what was happening in the Bahamas compared to what was happening in their countries.
I was able to learn some of the ways in which they were tackling some of the same challenges and some of the ways in which they are creating new opportunities for their people. Like many other small island states, the Bahamas is being hit by global challenges which are not of our own making. The activities of larger nations are creating and exacerbating pressures on our economy and on our national development. Whether it's the pollution from the industrialized world that ultimately results in storms like Hurricane Dorian, or the behavior of authoritarian leaders that cause global instability. CHOGM provided an opportunity to challenge some of those leaders directly. In my contribution to the business forum, in which I was one of only a small number of leaders invited to make presentation, I emphatically made the point that none of us will succeed if we try to do things on our own. It is a similar point I made to the Bahamian people at the start of our administration, that our country will only succeed if all work together in partnership. The meetings and discussions we had at CHOGM emphatically reinforced the point. By working together, we can achieve so much more than by trying to go it alone. Friends, I'm happy to report that our international efforts are bearing fruit. Our voice is being heard. Other countries want to strengthen their relationship with us. Other world leaders and business people want to invest in us. And international organizations want to help us.
Prime Minister Davis noted that the global idea of the Bahamas was shifting and people wanted to do business with the nation.
This kind of influence and these kinds of outcomes have become possible because of our decision to make our foreign policy work better and harder for us. For example, the pressure that we have been applying in terms of receiving funding and support to protect ourselves against the impact of climate change, that pressure is yielding results. Before too long, we'll be able to say more about the specific offers of funding and support that we have received. In terms of the big picture, there's still a way to go before the polluting countries fulfill their stated obligations. But slowly and surely, the Bahamas is starting to benefit. We settled formal diplomatic relations with our host, Rwanda, and also with Tuvalu and Gabon. We are grateful to the President of Rwanda, who conferred special courtesies upon us. On the first day we were there, we were honored when he invited me to accompany him into the opening session and referred to the Bahamas as his special guests. The next day, we were all deeply moved to visit a memorial in Kigali, the Rwandan capital, paying tribute to the millions who died in a genocide there in 1994, just 28 years ago. On that single site alone were buried some 250,000 people, more than half of our population. I cannot describe the feeling of walking on such hallowed grounds, to witness some of the horrors of that time, and to now see the modern state which they have since built, prompted tears of sympathy and admiration. We can take what we have learned and apply it to our own national development. And they are keen to learn from us about how to build their tourism industry, as so many countries do. They recognize the Bahamas as world leaders in the sector.
Prime Minister Davis pointed out that in his delegation with the President of Botswana, they agreed to mutually support each other by Botswana helping the Bahamas to develop its livestock industry and the Bahamas offering them support again in developing tourism.
As with so many of the African leaders we met, we recognized each other's faces. People who not only look like us, but people who remind us of specific individuals at home. And as the President of Botswana said, they want to reconnect and strengthen ties with our brothers and sisters who were so cruelly taken from us hundreds of years ago. He has accepted our invitation to attend some of the celebrations surrounding the 50th anniversary of independence, and in return invited us not just to engage in the technical issues of mutual interest, but also to get to know a little more of their culture and of them and Botswana. If we continue on this path and succeed in the Bahamas becoming a kind of bridge between the Caribbean and Africa, opportunities for Bahamians and the Bahamas will continue to grow manifold.
For Your Government in Action, I am Todd Isaacs.
We will have more of Your Government in Action when we return. Welcome back. The country's judiciary reached a major milestone recently with the opening of the Bahamas Judicial Education Institute's Training Center. The newly commissioned Training Center will be instrumental in fulfilling the need for preparation of judicial officers and their staff, thereby enhancing the delivery of justice in the country. Yentel Taylor has this story.
The commissioning ceremony was held at the Bahamas Judicial Education Institute, Charlotte House, downtown. In attendance were Chief Justice Sir Brian Murray, Minister of National Security, the Honorable Wayne Monroe, and Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Senator the Honorable Ryan Pinder. Delivering the opening address was Chairman BJEI Justice Ian Winder, who said that although training requirements have always been met, accommodations have always been less than ideal.
Today, therefore, is indeed a significant event in the life of the Institute, the judiciary, and for judicial education in the Bahamas, as we formally open our very first training center, a facility custom designed and purposely outfitted to meet the current and future training needs of the judiciary. We've worked with our architects and planners to bring to life this training center, which we now celebrate today. The training center offers a main training theater capable of accommodating 36 officers, modern furniture providing plug-and-play stations to allow individual laptops to be utilized by training participants. The center is supported by an ample supply of laptops exclusively for its use. The center is outfitted with state-of-the-art media and video conferencing equipment to accommodate the most modern of teaching tools and techniques. The center also boasts a conference room and kitchen facilities to accommodate catering needs during sessions. There's also a smaller training room capable of accommodating 10 officers, and which, along with the conference room, can facilitate breakout sessions during training exercises. In addition to being a teaching facility, the center will serve as the administrative offices for the Institute and the hub for judicial education. There are spaces for support staff, and in particular the administrator of the BJI to do the ongoing work of the BJI.
Chief Justice Sir Brian Murray said that the opening of the facility marks an important step in improving the country's judicial system. He added, however, that there is still much more work to be done.
This is an important day for the judiciary in the Bahamas. as we officially launch the opening of the BJEI Training Center as another significant step in the Court Modernization and Reform Initiative, what is referred to as COMRIN. I launched COMRIN shortly after taking office as Chief Justice in June 2019, with the stated intention of bringing the court system in the Bahamas into the 21st century in compliance with best practices. We are systematically changing this goal, we are systematically achieving this goal step by step as we move forward after having to deal with the fallout of Hurricane Dorian and the COVID pandemic over the past 2 to 3 years. We are currently at different stages of multiple new initiatives within the court system, including, amongst others, the bail management system, the new case management system, the digitization project, the digital recording system, the new electronic payment system and payment management solution for the magistrates' courts, the automation of the listing office, the breakout new family court complex, the new remote court at the Bahamas Department of Corrections, and the new mediation module as an alternative dispute resolution mechanism. All of these reforms require extensive training throughout the court system, and that is why the opening of this training center today is so important for the judiciary. For the first time, we now have our own modern customized training facility, which will allow us to conduct hand-on training and ongoing legal professional education year-round in a plug-and-play environment. As we move forward to introduce much-needed changes in our court system, there will be an increased emphasis and need for training across the judiciary to facilitate the revamping of our procedures and work processes as we migrate to a digital environment as part of a new technology platform for the delivery of services to enhance access to justice for all in our country. Real and sustainable change across the court system will not be achieved without widespread, effective training for our judicial officers and staff. And this highlights the absolute need for this training center.
Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Senator the Honorable Ryan Pinder, said that the center is supported by both the Bahamas Bar Association and the Office of the Attorney General and is in keeping with the objective of advocating for continuing education for attorneys as a requirement to maintain licenses to practice law in good standing.
To support this initiative, we can expand our offerings at the Eugene DePuch Law School, for example, who would have the curriculum infrastructure to lend us support to create continuing education programs for attorneys. In this instance, I also encourage the Honorable Justice Ian Winder, as the chairman of this institute, to feel free to engage the law school to assist in any kind of design and implementation of a curriculum for the judiciary. And I certainly would do the same for the Bar Council as they look to develop their continuing education requirements. And we have the senior tutor here. I think he's drafting a curriculum maybe as we speak.
Minister of National Security, the Honorable Wayne Monroe, extended congratulations to Chief Justice Murray and Justice Winder for their efforts and said he was excited to be among friends.
The loan has a number of components, and the component that relates to this is component 3, if I am not mistaken. Yes, my stuff is out of order, which is why I prefer litigation. It's component 3, and it's entitling Strengthening Institutional Capabilities for More Efficient Justice Services. And under this component, there has been the following deliverables. There's been the design and development and implementation of an integrated case management system. There's been the digitization of millions of paper court documents. There has been the LAN/WAN and electrical upgrades to court spaces. And finally, this project here. It is no coincidence that most of the interventions funded by the CSJP are technological in nature. Part of the CSJP's mandate is to implement sustainable mechanism for crime reduction. We believe that leveraging the digital environment to reimagine critical judicial tasks will continue to contribute to swifter justice delivery and promote efficiency across all justice services.
For your government in action, I'm Yentel Taylor.
Our very own Matt Mora will update us on the current status of what is happening at the National Emergency Management Agency.
Director of the National Emergency Management Agency, Captain Stephen Russell, said the aim of the exercise was to simulate various events that could impact the Bahamas, be they hurricanes or other major mass casualty events, and allows local disaster management officials in New Providence, along with disaster consultative committees in Grand Bahama, Abaco, and the Family Islands, to test the collective disaster management system of the country.
It's an opportunity for knowledge exchange and capacity building. The aim is to ensure that if an event occurs anywhere in the archipelago, either at the island or community level, they can respond, or if there's a need for national response, we know how to collectively all respond to an emergency anywhere in the Bahamas, whether it's man-made or natural disaster. The scenario for this exercise, we're simulating a major Category 5 storm approaching the Bahamas from the south, coming across the eastern tip of Cuba and the western tip of Hispaniola, and coming up the archipelago, touching most of all our islands and exiting up towards the Grand Bahama Abaco area. So all islands of the Bahamas will somehow be impacted. Simulation exercise.
Captain Russell said the agency will continue to do its part to prepare the country's comprehensive disaster management system to be able to respond to any emergency and/or disaster that may impact the country. He urged citizens and residents alike to do likewise with their individual and community preparations.
Over the past 7 years, I'm just going back to probably Hurricane Joaquin 2015 up to Hurricane Dorian, every citizen or resident of the Bahamas, they are aware of the extent of the damages that these systems can cause. At Category 5, like we saw with Hurricane Dorian, can bring about catastrophic damages and deaths. We are in a hurricane zone, and we can expect something possibly on any given year. So we urge persons throughout the archipelago to be prepared for what may come during a given year. NEMA will raise the alarm, we have the awareness exercises, but again, it's up to individuals at the family level, the household level, to have a plan of action as to how they would respond. We encourage persons at the community level, okay, to know what your community would do, where are the vulnerable areas in your community, where are the vulnerable citizens or the persons with challenges. Collectively as a community, we must have a plan as to how we would safeguard our community. I also speak about business plans, livelihood protection. We encourage persons, small businesses, whether they are auto repairmen outdoors or carpenters, find a way to safeguard your tools, your assets.
He addressed the need to adhere to evacuation orders, particularly for those persons living in low-lying or flood-prone areas.
The government has implemented mandatory evacuation plans. So we stress upon persons, if you hear that evacuations, either voluntary evacuations or mandatory evacuations, have been issued for your community, please link in with your local administrators, your disaster committees, to ensure that you have a plan of action as to how you may have to, how you can get out of the potential area that can be impacted. We're encouraging persons to be responsible for your family, your assets, and knowing the plan of your island and the community in the event evacuations are ordered.
The 2022 Atlantic hurricane season opened June 1 and will conclude November 30th. As usual, disaster managers across the Bahamas are urging citizens and residents alike to be prepared. For your government in action, I'm Matt Mora.
The minister responsible for youth, sports, and culture, the Honorable Mario Boleg, spoke with our team last week to give us insight on the intended impact of the 2022-2023 budget allocations as regards to growth and development of culture in the Bahamas.
Well, you know, Joel Junkanoo is back. I know people are very happy and elated to hear that Junkanoo is back. It is a ministry-funded event in partnership with JCNP. But you know, at the end of the day, there's something we have called culture in the park that has been commenced throughout the Family Islands, and I think the only park we have had it in is Garden Hills in New Providence, and I think this Saturday it will be, or this afternoon, it will be in Fort Charlotte. And you know, culture in the parks allows persons from the local communities to display the skill set they have in the orange economy, and also providing a little economic boost for them as well. You know, that along with recently my team and I has been touring the various islands, inspecting facilities, but while we were inspecting facilities, we were giving junk canoe workshops, because we believe the level of junk canoe should be displayed throughout the length and breadth of the Bahamas the same as it is in New Providence. And so as it relates to culture, we're doing things again. And also, one of the most important things I think we did in this budget cycle is we were able to increase and provide grant for a section of the orange economy that was never there. And when you look at the entertainment industry, the entertainers, the musicians coming up, you know, COVID-19 has really put a damper in many of their lives, and there was no means of ways for them to gain the revenue that they need to take care of their families and pay their bills. And so us providing grants to allow them to get that jump start again, whether it's buying materials or equipments, music equipments for themselves, been able to go in the studio. We also provided grants for various studios that will allow up-and-coming musicians to be able to go in the studio and get recording free. And so things like that we are putting in there, but we are also providing grants for the entire creatives.
We will have more of your government in action when we return. Welcome back. Officials from the Department of the Ministry of Social Services and Urban Development and the Bahamas Telecommunications Company Limited teamed up on Monday, June 27, 2022, to launch the 3-digit 711 child abuse hotline number. Matt Mora has this story.
Officials say the 711 number will add ease of access for citizens across the Bahamas to report cases of suspected child abuse. The new number will work in tandem with the existing numbers of 322-2763 and 422-2763. The department also operates hotlines in Grand Bahama, the number there 727-2471, and Abaco 471-8036, and wherever it has a local office in the Family Islands.
Child protection is fundamental in our country, and we intend to, after today's announcement, to cause for a massive marketing program, an information campaign to ensure that every child knows that there is a 711 number. That every child returning to school in the next semester will have with him a little card with the number placed. That in any sort of situation, they're able to reach out. We will put posters up as well, because the child must know. And so we intend to campaign upon what we have today to ensure that every child knows that I have an opportunity, for every friend of a child knows that I can help, and for any individual who is aware of to know that they have a duty by law. It is mandatory.
The collaboration got its genesis following the November 2021 death of 4-year-old Deonia Walker, affectionately known as Bella. Minister Wilchcombe called a meeting of key members of the Department of Social Services with responsibility for child protection to review and revamp its protection system. As a result, a multidisciplinary committee was formed that included representatives from the Department of Social Services, Urban Renewal, the Department of Gender and Family Affairs, the Royal Bahamas Police Force, and the Suspected Child Abuse and Neglect Unit of the Ministry of Health. all working harmoniously to effect change.
It is difficult for us to put November 5th, 2021 behind us. It is difficult for us to accept the realities of the existence of hate, terror, violence against the little ones. It is difficult for anyone to consider the life of Bella, to think that your child could suffer the way she did. It is so hard to believe that we have that in our society, but reality is we do. We have for a long time, I suppose, tried to push it under the rug, throw it like the political football, and never address the issues that we face. I'm so very pleased that with the permanent secretary and the director and the deputy directors and the leadership generally, that we are facing our issues head on. Today, I'm so very pleased that BTC is with us. I'm so very pleased that BTC over the many years linked this country, is now linking this country in another way. I'd like to thank former Minister Alden Allen, who in 1997 introduced the Child Abuse Hotline. And then my good friend, Paul Andy Gomez, who in 2010, after the recession, calls for a national hotline. All of whom were working toward and appreciating that there are times when you must contribute to the greater good. I'd like to thank the Attorney General's office, who has been working on legislation that we intend to take to the Parliament soon after the summer break. Legislation that will cause for even greater protection of our young people.
Mr. Andre Foster, Chief Executive Officer, Bahamas Telecommunications Company Limited, said the company wanted to get the 3-digit hotline number up and running as quickly as possible because they understand the importance of protecting the country's children.
When our lead for B2B, Trevor Stiles, he leads the division and helps government with many of the initiatives that we work with them on, was approached in February for the establishment of the 711 hotline. We moved swiftly to make sure that we delivered and ensure that the vision that the minister had put forth was brought to reality. Less than a month later, the 711 hotline was fully available and implemented and operational. This is something that we wanted to offer the Ministry of Social Service and Urban Development, also at no cost. That's the most important part. We wasted no time to ensure that the hotline was a reality because we understand the importance of protecting our children.
That is all for this week. Thank you for joining us. Tune in next week for another edition of Your Government in Action. I'm Joy Burns-Roger. Good evening.